Hey guys, greetings. This is Dr. Anand, and today I am here to perform a very important analysis related to employee absenteeism data. So, what exactly do we do with this data? So, from the HR perspective, it becomes very important for any organization to create some important wellness programs to take care of the stressed and depressed employees so that a proper emotional touch can be provided and they can be retained in the organization for a longer span of time, which would also create a huge positive impact on the revenue system of the company and also improvise the organizational culture, values, morale, ethics, climate, and the entire goodwill of the organization. So, for today's analysis, I have already collected data from Kaggle from XYZ company. The data has already been cleansed, it has already been processed, and it has already been imported and executed. Let me show you the data file. So if you look into this data file, it has 740 rows and 21 columns, which means the data has been collected from 740 employees, and the data has been split in 21 different columns. So, what are all the different types of factors? The employee ID, reason for being absent, the month of being absent, the day of being absent, the season where employees are absent, the transportation cost which has been incurred by the organization, or the transportation cost which has been spent by the organization on each and every individual employee. And then we have the distance in kilometers, which means the distance from where the employees are traveling. That is the distance between the area of residence of the employees and where this organization has been put up in. And then we have service time, age, workload, hit target, disciplinary issues. So, in case if any employees have committed any disciplinary issues in the past, then it is being marked as 1. If not, it is being marked as 0. Education qualification, if it is a single degree, it is being mentioned as 1. If it is a double degree like a UG and a PG, it is being mentioned as 2. Then it is being mentioned as son, but we can take it as the number of children. And then social drinking, social smoking, pet animals which employees are having, weight, height, body mass index, and the number of days where the employees were absent. So, very important factors. And these factors are quite common. These types of data is quite common, which would be collected by any organization for that matter. It's a very simple data, but what are all the different types of wonderful analysis what can be performed using this simple data is the task today. So I hope you have understood what are all the different types of factors which have been included in this data set. Now let me walk you through this important visual representation or a visual activity which is called mind mapping. So mind mapping is created in this particular application which is called Mind Map. So just go to Google and type MINDMUP. It will take you to this particular platform. And before starting with any type of analysis with the raw data, especially let it be marketing analytics or HR analytics, it is very important to sit peacefully, think, do a lot of fermentations and combinations, come out with a lot of assumptions, come out with a lot of questions, think about a lot of variables and jot it down so that it makes your analysis more interesting. And on my left hand side, you can see a very simple diagram which looks like a spider, and that is what we are also going to create. So, mind mapping is nothing but it is a visualization application which would help any individual to put down their thoughts in the form of a visual art. So, I've mentioned before, I've collected data from ABC organization with regard to employees. And how many different factors are there? There are 21 different factors. If possible, you can also mention the factors here, but I'm not going to mention about the factors because I've already spoken about it. And This is called the parent variable, the one which is in blue color, and every parent would be having a single child or multiple child. So first important variable here, what I am going to take is age and health patterns. So I'm going to give a heading insight 1, that is age and health pattern. The second important child variable, that is insight 2, is going to be transport and stress. The third important child variable here is going to be lifestyle impact, right? So let's take the first one. Let us differentiate the same thing by having a very different color so that it looks more colorful and it looks amazing. So it's left up to you, whatever color you want, you can go ahead with. So first let's take age and health patterns. So I'm inserting subchild here. Maybe let's put this thought that employees aged 45 and plus show a BMI. What is BMI? Body mass index. Above 30 are classified to be obese, right? And let us insert further child variable with regard to obesity. Obese employees. So what happens to obese employees? It leads to a chronic fatigue. Second, it leads to diabetes. Third, it leads to heart conditions. Fourth, it leads to higher medical complications. And what is going to be the impact of all these issues? Medical leave. It reduces the productivity. Or it leads to a resignation. And what is a further impact over here? It affects the revenue system of an organization, right? See what a different visualization we have created with a very simple data what we have got. Maybe if you have to put yourself into the shoes of a human resource manager or a CHRO, these would be the very simple factors which could help us create a huge impact in the organization. So maybe if you look into this Excel sheet which has almost 740 employees details, and if you can find how many employees are above the age category of 45 and who are on the obese side, I'm pretty sure that at least 25 to 50 employees would be on the obese side. So what can the organization do? Can the organization take some precautionary measures by providing some curated wellness programs for them? Can it organize yoga sessions for them, or can it provide some gym subscriptions, or can it provide some free medical camps? So, or can it also hold a buddy system where a fitness employee or an employee who's a gym rat or an employee who's into yoga can provide some awareness or free advice or talks, friendly talks, exchange of ideas on how to maintain health, right? A lot of strategic decisions can be taken. Looking into the cost side, it also becomes quite expensive for the organization to maintain such type of employees, because very often they would be falling sick and it would lead to continuous absenteeism. So such type of employees can be given a golden handshake and they can also be removed from the institution, because it does not make sense to retain such type of employees, right? So what happens to the transportation expenses here? Transportation expense is a sort of a financial incentive which has been given to most of the employees working in the corporates. So young employees, maybe who are having an age range between 25 to 35, who are given transport expenses, maybe rupees 200 per day, right? Are they still coming late to the organization, is one important question mark, because transportation expense for a couple of employees might not seem to be quite expensive, but if an organization which has 10,000 employees, and out of 10,000 employees, if the organization is going to spend for the transportation expense for 8,000 employees, then it is a huge amount, right? It's a huge investment which is being made. Even after making such type of investment, if the employees are turning to the organization very late, or if they are keeping themselves absent, then it does not make sense to retain such type of employees. Or it should also be looked in a very nice side, where the HR department can find who are all these employees, sit, talk with them, and come out with any other strategic decisions. So, likewise, if you sit and jot down a lot of important factors, and if you can classify those factors into sub factors, it would be very useful for us to understand the different types of challenges. So, what could be the different types of challenges? Increased absenteeism would impact the project timelines and also the team morale, which is the first factor. Second one, medical reimbursement costs are rising due to the lifestyle related illness. If you look into this particular data which has been collected, we have social smokers and social drinkers. So that also could create a huge impact. The third important one is employee productivity and employee engagement could be declining because of, maybe if the transportation expenses which is being paid to the employees are quite less, then the employees should accordingly arrange for other transportation facilities, which might also lead to a lot of absenteeism. That transportation itself could create a stress. Maybe if we take some metropolitan cities and cosmopolitan cities like Chennai or Bangalore or Hyderabad or Coimbatore or Delhi or Pune or Mumbai or Kolkata, the traffic is so unpredictable that it creates a lot of stress for the employees who are traveling, especially from a very long distance. One more important data factor, what I personally observed, is the number of children, right? Especially for the female employees, if they have more than two kids, right? Uh, like they have to pack food for them, they have to take care of the family, they have to take care of the routine work, and then they have to get ready, they have to come to the organization. It is an example for multiple stress. That also could be one of the reasons for the employees being active or falling ill very frequently. So this activity, which is again called a mind mapping, would help any person dealing with any type of analytics to look into the factor, understand the factors, or understand the data sheet, and then to use this mind mapping application to sit and jot down the important child factors and subchild factors. The factors what you see on the screen is very much limited because we have just spent around 10 to 15 minutes to jot down these factors. But maybe with a peaceful mindset, if you can sit and spend some time, I'm pretty sure that you would be able to get a lot of new insights. So likewise, you see it works on two sides. First, you understand the problem, and based on the problem, you start collecting the data, or you have the data, and then from the data, you look into the problem. So it's like both the sides of the coin. So, whichever side you flip, it should give you a lot of new insights. So, what do we do with this data? What type of analysis do we perform further, especially using KNIME? So, let's get into KNIME. As I've told you before, uh, KNIME can be used to drive wellness program decisions through absenteeism analytics. So, the name which I'm going to give for this particular project is called absenteeism analytics. So, the data set pertains to employee absenteeism and contains the key HR variables. So, what are all the key HR variables? What we find here? It relates to age, transport expenses, body mass index, social habits such as alcohol consumption and smoking, etc. So this assignment uses KNIME analytical platform to process and filter data, leading to some strategic insights that would help the HR management justify and provide curated corporate wellness program for a specific segmented group of employees. Because when we are talking about a specific segmented group of employees, the organization need not spend a huge amount of money for all 740 employees, but if you can do some basic filtration process, you would be able to find that cohort or that group or that cluster of employees who needs wellness programs. So if you can ask a question, why only a group of employee? Because wellness programs should differ from person to person. Not the same wellness program can be provided to everyone. So likewise, this would help us to look into. So what could be the learning objectives? First, let me tell you what introspections we have to get from this data set, which I've already told you using the mind mapping tool. Second, we also learn how to use the row filter option and column filter option nodes using KNIME. Third, we also apply multi-condition queries to isolate health risk employee segments because we cannot provide wellness programs to everyone. We have to find employees who can fit into this particular segment. Third, we have to link the data outputs to HR strategic interventions and to take some strategic decisions. The final one, understand how the filtered dataset can guide wellness initiatives. So we have 5 different learning objectives here. So what is going to be the dataset requirements? So if you want, you can use this dataset requirement, which is very much from Kaggle. It is called employee absenteeism data, which should be downloaded in a CSV format, and it should contain all these factors. Now, let me tell you what I have basically done here. First, any type of data what we get would have a lot of missing values. Data with missing values would not provide any analytical insight because it follows the rule of garbage in and garbage out. I'm going to edit the node comment that I'm going to mention n is equal to 740. The original data file what we received has records pertaining to 740 employees. Let us look into the missing value node. So in missing value, I have mentioned remove row, right? Which means any type of rows which has a missing value should be removed. That is a configuration task what I have given, and then you can execute it. So if you look into the output here, right, output table, it would showcase only 639 rows, which means from 740 almost we have reduced 100 rows, which means most of the rows were empty. So this itself becomes one uh, process for the HR department to maintain proper data related to the employees. Okay, how do we split the data? As I told you before, I have taken three important categories here. One is age and transportation cost. The second one is age and body mass index. The third one is age and social drinking. Age has been mentioned very constantly in three different classifications because I personally felt age of an employee plays a predominant role. There could be other different types of factors. Say, for example, if you have gender, then you can take gender. So it all depends on the research thinking of the person who is involving into analytics. So first the data has to be split. So first I'm using a row filter node here where I've taken the row filter node from the node repository using a drag and drop option, and I'll tell you how I have configured it. So I have taken age between 25 to 30 and transportation expenses which is about 250. I've told you that the transportation expense has been paid to each and every employee by the organization, so it's a huge investment. So I felt that these are the two important factors which first has to be taken into consideration. See, you can group based on two factors or multiple factors as well, but basically I've taken only two. How do you do this? Let me showcase this to you. Let me go to the road repository and let me take row filter. When you type row filter in the node repository, you get a lot of different nodes which might pop up, and you have to take a row filter in brackets. It would be mentioned as labs. I'll show you one example on how to do it. So connect your Excel reader to your row filter, right click, configure. So condition 1 is to take age. Age, I've told you before, that is in between. I want to take the details of employees whose age is spanning between 25 to 35, right? And add condition. And what is the second condition? What I've told you, that is the transportation expenses, which is less than, sorry, which is more than 250. 200 or 250 or 300, it all depends on however you want you can take it. All it's like purely depending on your personal things. So let's look into the output, what we get here. So 100 rows and 21 columns, right? So why it has been reduced into 100, can we think about it? Which means we have got data only from employees whose age is ranging between 25 to 35, right? And the second important one, the transportation cost, which is more than 250. Okay, maybe if you can ask a question, why? From the organization's perspective, I I can very much understand that transportation cost is quite expensive. Till 250 rupees is fine to some extent, but not more than that. So I want to find how many employees, especially within this youth community, that is, or youngsters I would call, 25 to 35, who are receiving or who are reimbursed with a transportation expense more than 250 are absent. So this is a very basic classification what I've done. So that is the first one, that is age and transportation cost. The second important configuration what I've done here is body mass index. So if you can look into body mass index on a general uh, landscape, if the body mass index is more than 30, people are usually considered to be on the obese side. So I really want to take into consideration the body mass index and age, as I told you before when we were doing the mind mapping. So same way I have given the condition, that is body mass index, and look into the symbol that is above 30. Likewise, age category, see age category again you can have it above 45, or you can also use one more condition and you can keep it between 25 to 35. It all depends. I personally have come out with this particular assumption that mostly for those people who are above the age category of 45, the body mass index would be slightly on the obese side, because again I'm coming out with one more assumption, that people ranging between the age category of 25 to 35, maybe 50% of the population would hit the gym, or would actively take part in any type of sports activity. So maybe the body mass index would be ranging between 25 to 30, which is not too obese, but which is okay, fine to some extent, right? And I'm pretty sure that in 2025, especially people, the 2K kids, right, the generation Z, uh, I'm pretty sure that they are more health conscious, and they would love to maintain the health. So I don't think so they would be in the obese side. Maybe if you look into the previous generation, people who were born between 1987 to 1997, they don't give a lot of importance to their health conditions because of the working environment and the work stress what they take, and also because of the pressure what they get from the family. So predominantly they would be ranging between this age category, and I don't think so they would be maintaining their health properly. So again there is an assumption that the body mass index could be more than 30, which means they could be on the obese side. The third important classification is age and social drinking. Let me also tell you what I've done here. I'm again taking the age category between 25 to 35, and social drinkers. So if you look into the data of social drinkers, it has been bifurcated into two. If they are a social drinker, it has been mentioned as 1 as an indicator, and if they are not a social drinker, it has been mentioned as 0. So I want the data only pertaining to social drinkers. So I mentioned that social drinker is equal to 1. Maybe you can ask a question, why social drinking to be grouped with age category of 25 to 35. I think people who are above the age category of 35 are very much in the family side, a lot of family commitments. So when it comes to social drinking, I don't think so that concept would prevail, especially in down south, especially in India. I'm purely talking from the context of India. So that is, but if you look into the age category of 25 to 35, yes, they love to spend a lot of time with family. I mean, with family, but at the same time with friends also. They have a lot of exposure, and social drinking becomes quite fancy for them. So that also, is one of the most important factors. Maybe if you visit a pub or a resto, during a Saturday night or a Friday evening, then probably if you just do an observation, you can see a lot of people who predominantly range between the age category of 25 to 35 and quite less above 45. So that is one of the reasons why specifically I've taken 25 to 35. Again, I'm telling you that all these classifications and grouping of variables has been done only based on my own assumptions. But however, it is left up to your choice on how you want to group and you want to take it. Now, after using the row filter, we have to use the column filter. So let me also tell you why column filter has to be used. So if I want only the details of age and transport, I need only age and transport, right? So that is why we have to use a column filter. So go to the node repository and you can type column filter. You get column filter legacy, which has to be pulled into your workspace using the drag and drop option. Right click and configure. So when you right click and configure, this dialog box would open. And if you look into this control panel, you can see inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria. So um, as a mandatory function, all the variables would be on the exclusion side. So we have to take into consideration only the factors what we are in need to be seen in a specific separate column. So I'm taking transportation expense and age as mentioned. Just click apply, OK, and execute it. So if you look into the output here into the table, see you can see 100 employees as per the particular row filter what we gave. What is, can you remember what is that? Where the transportation expense is more than 250 and the age category is between 25 to 35. So only this information is there. So likewise, you have to give it for age and BMI and age and social drinking, right? So let me show you how it has been taken, inclusion and same exclusion criteria. So first we have looked into the raw data. We have understood how many rows are there and how many columns are there. Then we have also looked into the different types of factors which has been given in the data set. So based on this data which is already existing, what type of analytics can be performed or what type of decisions can be taken or how the data can be used to the maximum possible. So all these task has been very much planned using the mind mapping activity. And then we have used the row filter to cleanse the data. Again, we have used the column filter to cleanse the data and to take only the data what we are in need of. So now I'm going to use a group by node. Let me also tell you why am I going to use a group by node and what type of insights I would get from that. So basically, I am going to group the data based on two different factors. One is by transportation cost and the other one is by age. So what is the purpose of this group by analysis? So the goal here is to analyze how the average transportation expenses may vary across different age groups. So this type of insight is very much crucial in HR analytics for understanding the cost behavior or optimizing the benefits or potentially aligning travel reimbursement policies with employee demographics. So that is one of the reasons why we have to give importance to this group by. And what type of HR insight and strategic decisions can be taken? So if you look into the age-wise trend, maybe policy optimization or location planning, employee well-being, forecasting and budgeting can be done. So how do we use this group by node here? Please do go to the node repository and if you type group by, you get this particular node which has to be uh, pulled into your workspace using drag and drop. Let me show you how this has to be configured. If you right click and this particular dialog box would open, and what you can see here is transportation expense and age, which means the transportation expenses would be grouped by age. I hope you got the meaning. The transportation expenses would be grouped by age. Second, you have to go to this manual aggregation and then you have to bring the transportation expenses inside, because that is where we want to know about the mean. That is a mean of transportation expenses to be compared with age, right? And then you have to apply and execute it. So let me show you the output here. So if you look into the output, you get age and mean, that is transportation expense. So you get 28, you get 31, you get 32, and you get 33. And if you look into the mean transportation expense, it is 348, 369, 291, and 287. So what is the key observations here? So age 31, right, has the significant highest transportation expense, which is 369 rupees. You can look into this, right? And it is followed by the age category of employees belonging to 28, where an employee um, has been paid rupees 348. So this suggests that employees in late 20s or late 30s may have longer commutes, use more expensive modes of transport, maybe a taxi or a cab, maybe Ola or Rapido, or have higher travel frequency. And that is one of the reasons why the transportation expenses are quite expensive. So that is one key observation. What is the second one? The expenses drop very sharply at the age category of 32 and 33. See, you can find very drastic differences. If you look into the age category of 32 and 33, it is rupees 291 and 287.54 respectively. So this could reflect a shift in the behavior or the lifestyle, right? Maybe I would say older employees when compared to 28 and 31. These are little older, that is 32 and 33. Maybe they prefer to live closer to the office, can be one observation. Second, they are most cost effective. They don't use a high-ended cab facility or cab with AC. Maybe they also take a two-wheeler. The third important one, be in higher roles. Maybe it can also be a flexibility in work or work from home flexibility. They travel not much frequently to the organization, but maybe 3 days in a week and so. So if you look into the overall mean transportation expenses, it is 323.95. How did we get that? Where is that from? So right click and get into the statistics table here. So if you get into the statistics table, you can see the mean. So it's here. Mean for the transportation expense is 323.95. Only the age of 28 and 31 are the group are above this average, suggesting a very clear age cost infection point, right? So what a beautiful insight what we have got with regard to age and the transportation expenses. So likewise, you can also do this analysis with few other factors however you want. Maybe you can also take into consideration the BMI as well. So, see, this might look very simple, but if you look into the strategic insights from the HR perspective, it is going to be quite huge. And such type of analysis would really help the HR department to come out with a lot of insights. So this age-wise trend provides an actionable intelligence for the HR and operations. As I told you before, the first one is policy optimization. Maybe reimbursement policies um, can be based on age or role. Second, younger employees might need higher support if they are facing the high transportation cost. Second one, location planning. Younger employees are commuting from very far distances. The HR can offer location flexible roles, maybe hybrid option, or encouraging relocation support as well. That also can be done. Third one is employee well-being. Maybe higher transportation cost can impact the morale and retention. So identifying high cost age groups can help the HR managers to reduce the employee transportation stress. The last one is forecasting and budgeting, which is very important from the cost effective strategy which has to be taken by the top management. That is, transport cost forecasting can now be age aware or age based. So, enabling more precise budgeting for travel allowances. So, from the HR perspective, you have to increase your travel allowances for few employees who are belonging to a specific age category, and maybe for the other age category who are not spending too much of travel, maybe they can be provided with other better allowances. So, these are all the different types of strategic insights what we have taken. So I hope this particular episode was good for you to understand how the data which has been collected uh, can be used for bringing some wellness programs as well, or can be used for cost cutting strategies. So I would be meeting you for the other episode. So meanwhile, this is Dr. Anand. So thank you.